Today's podcast is brought to you by Energy Bits. To add more life to yours one bit at a time, go to energybits.com and enter the promo code PLANTRAINERS at checkout to get 20% off your order. And now on to the show.
Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are Propelled by Plants.
Today we bring to you episode 227, The Power of Positive Parenting with Jon Gordon.
In today's episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talk to Jon Gordon about the power of positive leadership within our own families. How we choose to lead our families have a profound influence on our children's quality of life. Taking the time to invest in building our relationships with them and building their own leadership skills can give our children an edge for creating a greater impact in the world later on in their lives. We also explore the role we as parents should be playing when it comes to our children's extracurricular activities and not just sports. Just a side note, I'd like to share a funny story about something our 9-year-old son Russell said. Adam has a pretty serious alliance with the Minnesota Vikings, which means the Rams and other specific teams are not favored around the plant cave. Russell observed how well they're doing and commented that the Rams are doing well this year because they work with Jon Gordon. Sometimes you've just got to call it like it is.
Jon Gordon's best-selling books and talks have inspired readers and audiences around the world. His principles have been put to the test by numerous Fortune 500 companies, professional and college sports teams, school districts, hospitals, and nonprofit organizations. He's the author of 15 books, including 5 bestsellers: The Energy Bus, The Carpenter, Training Camp, You Win in the Locker Room First, and The Power of Positive Leadership. Jon and his tips have been featured on the Today Show, CNN, CNBC, the Golf Channel, and Fox, and in numerous magazines and newspapers. His clients include the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Atlanta Falcons, Campbell Soup, and so many more. Jon is a graduate of Cornell University. He played lacrosse there, and he holds a master's in teaching from Emory University. He and his training company are passionate about developing positive leaders, organizations, and teams.
You've heard us say training for life a lot. We put it on our Instagram posts, Adam puts it in his Strava and Facebook post, and it's really gaining traction. Now you could be reminded to be training for life with our brand new hot off the press Training for Life t-shirts. You won't want to take off this smooth unisex Training for Life tee. It's made up of a uniquely soft tri-blend that creates a stylish modern fit. Of course, we also have our Propelled by Plants performance tees that's printed on the exact same Ironman finisher microfiber material. It's fast absorbing, quick drying, and most importantly, UPF 30+. Both shirts are perfect for any man or woman looking for active or casual streetwear. With the holidays around the corner, you're going to be looking for that perfect gift for you or for those that you love. So order your shirts now. Press pause, hit the link in the show notes, and get shopping. We have a very limited supply of Training for Life shirts, and you will want to order now to avoid the holiday snail mail slowdown. Did we mention $1 from each shirt will be donated to a responsible, ethical, and compassionate charitable fund? So you can feel really good about your purchase. And each shirt comes with a handwritten card from us. So if you're ordering it for a loved one, once your order goes through, email us at info@planttrainers.com and tell us who to make the card out to. Get Propelled by Plants and start training for life now.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
This weekend, I attended Blake Fly's networking event. It was called New Year's Evolution, and it was really great connecting with so many people and reflecting on my year. And if you wanted to listen to the podcast that he was on, it is Plant Trainers Podcast number 218.
If you've been listening to our podcast, if you've been following us on social media, you know that for the last 10 days or so, I was in Ecuador in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, working with students of mine to build up a community down there. And I'm just so grateful because the work I was doing there was so impactful. And these people had houses that had no walls. They had buildings that were decrepit, and we were basically literally building them. We were doing construction and helping them improve their quality of life physically. And it was just an incredible experience to spend time with those people, the local people there, helping them work on their buildings and to get to know them a little. And it just reminds me of how lucky I am for all that I have here at home.
Jon Gordon, we've been looking forward to this interview. Thank you so much for being on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
I'm honored to be with you both.
Do you have a moment of gratitude that you'd like to share with us and the listeners?
Well, this weekend I was at Clemson University where my daughter goes to school, and I've worked with the football program for the past 6 years there, and my son was visiting for the possibility of playing tennis there. And so we all were there as a family with my wife, our kids, and we were there together. So it was just a great moment for us to all be together now, as my children are, adults, and it was just exciting.
We love that you brought that up because we're going to be talking about families today with you. And we really feel that families is something that needs to be seen as a team. You work with professional college and sports teams all the time. You work with corporate teams. You work with Campbell Soup teams. But today we really wanted to talk about the dynamic of the family and use your core values about connection, commitment, and caring, and how we could use them to create strong relationships in our family. So we wanted to kind of get into that a little bit.
Great idea. I love that.
So, I mean, the real thing is here, we just mentioned you talk to teams, you talk to corporations, but the family dynamic is so important, and I think a lot of people miss out on it. Now, are there similarities and differences that you see between the people you work with and the team environment, and how can we relate that back to the family lifestyle?
Well, the principles are the same. What's really cool is that when I'm giving a talk to business leaders, to organizations, to teams, everyone always seems to take these principles back to their families. And so I hear from people all the time, hey, I saw you speak at this event. I'm now doing this with my family, or I'm doing this with my wife. I'm doing this with my husband. And that's the best part of this, is that these principles are transferable and people can use them in their personal lives as well as their professional lives. And just the other day, I was speaking at Cintas, and a lot of the questions that were coming at me were actually questions about families, kids. And so I had these guys come up to me saying, you know what, I need to be a better dad. I need to invest more time in communication and connection with my wife and my kids. I have to do this. And so as they're, going through these programs and these talks that I'm giving, and they're walking away from these talks with some ideas of what they can do, that's the best part. So can you be a better leader at home and a better leader at work? Can you be a better teammate at home and a better teammate at work? That's what we're talking about. And I don't think you have to separate them. I mean, there should be no separation really between your work life and your personal life in terms of who you are. You should be the same person in both places.
But in reality, that doesn't really happen, right? I mean, you wrote the book, The Power of Positive Leadership. There's so many great points in there and so many tactics that people could use, but it's so often, I mean, realistically, you got to admit that you see that people at business act one way, they come home and they act a completely different way. So how do we get people to merge those two lives when it comes to building relationships and connection at home and not just at the office?
Well, one, we get them to listen to podcasts like this so they can, listen to these ideas and get inspired and hopefully take action. And it's the idea that don't give all of yourself away at work and then come home and have nothing left for the people that you love at home. Try to engage with the people at work and give everything there. And then when you're at home, give everything to the people at home. If you do that and you're engaged with the people in both places, you're going to feel great about your relationships at work and at home and at work. And then when you go to each place, you're going to be, happier. You're going to feel more purposeful. You're going to feel great about yourself. And that will actually transfer to both places. The worst thing you can do is be at work and feeling guilty you're not at home, and then be at home and feeling guilty that you're not doing work. I always say, wherever you are, be where your feet are, be in the present moment where you are, engage with the people where you are. And if you do that and you bring your best self to every relationship that you have, then that will lead to greater productivity and success. Success being defined as abundance, great relationships, great opportunity, and great joy, and so forth in every relationship you have. So how do we do it? We talk about these things. We make sure that we share these ideas. And I'm going to be doing a book in the future about these principles for families. I'm not ready to write it right now, but I know it's a couple books away that I'm going to write a book sort of sharing the ideas of what I've done with my family. Again, I'm not the perfect father. I'm not the best and most perfect husband, but I've worked a lot at it. And in doing so, I've become a better husband, a better father, and have learned a lot along the way.
If anybody's looking for something practical now, what I tend to do, and I work from home a lot with my wellness coaching, but often I'm out doing corporate wellness or teaching yoga. And before I come in the house, when I know that everybody's already in the house, I check my email quickly so that I get that out of the way. I take a few deep breaths and I set an intention for how I'd like to behave, how I'd like to act, how I'd like to be present with everybody before I walk into the house, so that I could kind of walk in with a clean slate, leave everything else behind.
I love that. I love that. Now, when you set the intention and you get yourself in the right state, but then someone just flips out, one of the children just like start screaming or yelling, or they start fighting, at that moment, what happens to the attention? I'm just curious. Are you able to sustain it?
John, that never happens. Come on.
It normally doesn't happen within the first few minutes, but it definitely does happen. And, I think that none of us are perfect. I teach mindfulness, and part of why I can teach that is because I've had struggles with it myself. But, what do I do? It depends on the day. There's a lot of different tactics. I might take a deep breath. I might smile. I might excuse myself and go to the washroom and come back after composing myself. And, sometimes it's not perfect also. And sometimes I join their energy and then need to take a step back and recalibrate.
Yep. Yeah, I think we've all been there.
For sure. And I'll totally, be honest about that. And, having said that, I think about how my mother and my father dealt with my sister and I when we were children. And I wonder how influential they are on the way that we behave now.
Oh, I think it's all patterns. It's what we've learned. But the great news is we can change those patterns, change the energy, and approach it differently. And I think over time of mindfulness, and for me it's prayer. I do a lot of prayer, and that really helps me stay centered and have a perspective and a mindset that allows me to take on those challenges and be calm in those moments. That's key.
So as parents, we have so much influence over our kids. What do you think is the most important thing that as a parent we could do for them?
Love them. If we love our children and they know we love them, and really love them, and we're there for them and we invest in them, that's everything. It's funny because my daughter is she's a good kid, and she's 19 and she's at college, and we were talking the other day because she wasn't going out and she hardly ever goes out. And we're like, Jade, how did you turn out so good? And she just said, well, you guys were always there. You always were involved. You always were part of my life. And, I just always knew you loved me. And that was a great feeling. I said, but do you remember me being away a lot? Because I was on the road a lot speaking. She goes, no, I don't remember that. I remember you home a lot. I remember summers, us always doing family stuff together. We would always take a month and spend time as a family. She said, I remember you going to these lacrosse tournaments with me. I always traveled with her. She was a club lacrosse player, the Canadian national sport, by the way, and as you probably know. And we'd go on these tournaments, and I was always going to her tournament games with her and traveling with her to Baltimore and Lake Placid and these places. And so even though I was gone a lot, she doesn't remember that I was gone. She remembers the days that I was there, because when I was home, I was completely invested and engaged with my children. And when I was away, I'm calling them, I'm talking to them. So I'd be gone 3 or 4 days, then I'd be home 2 or 3 days. I'd be gone 3 or 4 days, home 2 or 3 days. It wasn't like I was gone for weeks at a time, but she doesn't remember being gone because, again, it was the quality of time, it was the investment, and the love that she felt. And I remember the same thing with my family, too. In terms of my parents, could be quite negative growing up, and, they weren't the most normal people in the world at all. But I always remember the love of my mom and my dad and the love that I felt. My mom passed away 11 years ago. My dad passed away a year and a half ago. And so now they're gone. But what lives on in me is the love that they invested in me. I knew that I mattered to them. So that's the most important thing you can do.
So how do you show them how much you love them? And I ask you that because as I was growing up, I know my parents loved me, or at least I think they still do. But as their son, I was never one to say I love you back. I never reciprocated because for some reason I had a very difficult time to everybody just saying I love you. Now that I'm an adult, I say to my kids all the time, I love you. And my daughter says to me after I tell her I love her, she says, "Oh, Daddy, not again." So how can I show her, how do we show our kids that we love them without smothering them and still being a proper parent?
Well, it's love and accountability. Like you have to have love and accountability together. Like those are the two keys. So I love you, but I'm gonna hold you accountable to being the best you can be. It doesn't mean I'm gonna let you do whatever you want and I'm gonna be your best buddy all the time. No, I love you, but I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna help you become the best person you can be. I'm gonna make sure you're staying on course, doing the schoolwork you need to do and making sure you study and making sure that you are respectful and make sure you do things the right way. I'm gonna show you the great values that you need to have to be a great person. So I think that's important. But how do you show that you love them? You spend time with them. You find out what matters to them and what they love to do. I remember a number of years ago, I said, I want to get closer to my son. I was telling a friend this, and he doesn't seem to want to get closer to me. He's hard to connect with. So my friend said, well, do you do what he likes to do? I said, well, I think so. I mean, I was telling him some things we do. He goes, no, that's what you like to do. He said, you do what he likes to do. And then he said, what does he like to do? And I said, fish. He goes, do you fish with him? And I said, no. He said, well, fish with him. So I took him fishing. And so I realized that it's about doing what they want to do, investing in them, investing in their pursuits, their hobbies, what they love. It's also, again, I think, hugging them before bed. I would go in and we would, pray before bed as a family with my kids. I would do that. I think it's a heart thing too. Like you can't really put a explanation on it. It's just a heart thing where they just feel your love and you share that love with them from your heart.
You also can't fake it.
No, and I think it's also a matter of showing your interest and speaking to them. And it's like something we do almost every night is we get together as a family, we sit down at the dinner table and we actually sit and talk. And we talk about our day and talk about our successes that we've had. And we show them that we have a vested interest in what they're doing every day. And having that communication at the dinner table as a family, I think really goes a long way. And I don't think enough families are doing that right now. And I think it's a really good opportunity for them to get to know their children, get to know their spouse, and really spend quality time to build that relationship.
Yeah, I think a family meeting is key. Like every week, have a family meeting where you talk about, your family mission statement. You talk about how everyone's doing that week. What are the challenges they're facing? We started this family meeting a number of years ago, and it was probably one of the best things we ever did to just talk. And, what are our challenges? How can we overcome them? And things came out in the family meeting that would have never come out if we didn't have that time together. Oh, and then I would also take some inspirational things from other people because my kids could care less what I have to say. And so I would read something motivational, show them a clip, a video clip, and bring outside voices in that would inspire and motivate them by what I would share with them.
That's funny because our kids care what you have to say because you're a household name around here. They're like, because they read the Energy Bus for Kids, and Russell's like, when are you talking to Jon Gordon? So they definitely care. They definitely care what you have to say. So somebody.
That's how and I appreciate that. I mean, that's how it works, though. It's like we can be people of motivation and inspiration for others, but our own kids are like, yeah, whatever, Dad.
Yeah, always like that. Now, you talked about setting boundaries before is what I got out of it. And as a teacher and a coach myself, I see parents getting way too involved in their kids' athletics or extracurricular programming. I see helicopter parenting all the time. I see parents coaching from the sidelines, overstepping the coach that's in front of them. They're spoon feeding. They're holding their kids' hands in every aspect of life. I teach high school kids, and I know this is going on even after these kids are graduating. But I also notice some parents, they're completely disengaged. They never show up. They're never present. They're just oblivious to what's going on in their kids' lives. So I guess my question is, should parents be setting those boundaries and staying away at some point, or should they be all involved or not involved? And how can we get parents to be involved but not too much? Is there a too much? Enough with the energy drinks, gels, and beans that are loaded with unwanted ingredients. Energy Bits are a more effective, nutritionally dense source of mental and physical energy that will not cause stress on your stomach. Energy Bits are tiny tablets of algae, a sustainable eco-friendly crop so nutritionally dense it eliminates fatigue and hunger instantly. Want a healthy, natural way to fuel your game or fire up your brain? Energy Bits are for you. No caffeine, sugar, chemicals, gluten, or soy, just pure plant-based nutrition. One ingredient, 1 calorie, 0 net carbs. Improve your energy, wellness, and waistline all at the same time with Bits. I use Energy Bits before workouts or sometimes just as a snack. They make me feel great and give me that extra energy boost I'm sometimes looking for. I use Recovery Bits, which are tiny chlorella tabs, after workouts or when I'm feeling hungry late at night. Visit energybits.com to order Energy Bits, Recovery Bits, Vitality Bits, or Skinny Bits, and use the promo code PLANTTRAINERS at checkout to get 20% off your order.
Yeah, I think you know the answer, and I appreciate you asking me because so we can share it together. But it's definitely a mixture of both, right? You need to be there, you need to be involved. Your kids want you there, but you need to be involved and supportive in a very positive way, encouraging them. And you shouldn't get involved and bypass the coach. And you shouldn't be coaching from the stands, and you shouldn't get so involved that it becomes about you, not them. You're there to help them become the best version of themselves. The purpose of sports is to make us better human beings. And you're right. I thought this was just in America. Obviously, it's in Canada too, helicopter parents and parents being so involved. It just must be a societal thing now and a cultural thing across all spectrums and all areas, because it's getting worse and worse. So yes, be there. Be supportive. Allow your children to go through struggles. Allow them to go through challenges. The coach may not like them. The coach may be mean to them. And, again, mean should be, within reason. It can't be abusive. But they may not be fully supportive. They may not be great coaches. But you have to realize it's all life lessons that they can learn along the way. And they have to overcome. My daughter dealt with a very abusive in many ways, coaches. And we had to learn to deal with it. We had to learn to help her overcome. So I coached my daughter a lot through it. I supported her. I encouraged her. And I watched how she overcame it and became stronger because of it. I knew she had to learn these lessons. And I never got fully involved because I knew that I couldn't. Interestingly enough, the year after my daughter graduated, then all the parents got together and made sure that they weren't coaching anymore, which they would have been supportive like that early on. But at the same time, I allowed my daughter, because it wasn't physical abuse. It was just a lot of yelling and a lot of screaming, a lot of negativity. But I allowed her to go through it and didn't get too involved. Like I really would have loved to, but I knew I had to be supportive. And again, growing up, my son's a tennis player. And as a tennis player, you see crazy parents in tennis, and I again, have never wanted to be that crazy parent. So it's always, again, just been supportive, encouraging them, and let them have their journey. Don't make your identity, don't tie your identity to your children's, success, to your children's performance. You cannot tie your identity to them. You have to help them become who they're meant to be, not who you want them to be.
I'm glad you said that, because up here in Canada, hockey's huge. And I coached hockey for years. And even at the high school games that I coach, I hear parents bickering in the stands. I've seen fighting from parents in the stands over how much ice time their kid's getting. And they're trying to live out their own dream of wanting to play hockey and not letting their kid really go where they want to go. And it's unfortunate because there's so many kids that I've seen stop playing the sport because of their parents.
Yep. And if your child is meant to go play college hockey, pro hockey, they will. Like, if they really have the skill and they have the talent, trust me, it will work out for them. We get so tired thinking our kids are going to be the next Wayne Gretzky, right? They're going to be the next superstar. If they're meant to be, they will. So it's about trusting. It's about surrendering. It's about allowing, and it's about encouraging and supporting, and don't get tied so much on a moment-to-moment basis. Again, I was that parent when, my daughter was playing club lacrosse, and all the college coaches are watching. It's this big tournament, and I got tied into it. I really did. I was like so stressed if she didn't play well. I allowed it to bother me. So funny, because she decides to go to Clemson. They don't even have a lacrosse program, even though she was recruited to play at a few schools, Division I lacrosse. She goes to Clemson. They don't have lacrosse. Her freshman year, about halfway through, I said, Jade, do you miss lacrosse? She goes, not at all, Dad. Not at all. And so here she was doing all the club thing, but ultimately she wasn't really meant to play college lacrosse, and she didn't. And so now I can really advise parents on this, because I learned a lot being a club parent.
Were you crushed?
That she didn't play college lacrosse?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I wasn't crushed. I really would have loved her to play and loved watching her play, but I also knew this was her journey, and I'm much happier that she's at Clemson where she wants to be than at other school where she would have played lacrosse but not loved the school, because the programs that were recruiting her were schools that she really didn't want to go to. And so why go to a school just for a lacrosse team when you can go and be at the school that you really want to be at? And she is so happy where she is. Do I wish she was playing? Yes. My niece is now playing at Northwestern. She's a freshman, and she's playing lacrosse there, and that's one of the best lacrosse programs in the country. So, yeah, I wish my daughter was doing that, but now I'm just going to go support my niece and get to watch some of her games.
So how do we take these children who are involved in extracurricular sports or extracurricular activities and encourage them to be leaders and to encourage their teammates without really changing their unique characteristics?
Yeah, I think, again, if we're talking about band or music, recitals, sports, everything, it's about being the best team member you can be. It's about being a great teammate. So what does that mean? Well, each day you show up, you try to be your best and perform at your highest level. And while you're doing that, you're encouraging the people around you and helping them be the best that they can be. You're supporting them, you're encouraging them, you care about them, and you put the team first. And you know that as you help others get better, you get better in the process. When we serve others and help others grow, we grow. It's the way things work. It's the law of nature, right? As you help others improve, you improve. And we teach them how to be great teammates. We teach them the characteristics of a great team. I do this all the time when I go speak to college sports programs or even professional, like the LA Rams, the Los Angeles Rams. One of their mottos this year was "We before me." We before me, like me matters, like you do matter. Me is important. So it's not we, not me. It's we matters. I mean, it's me matters, but it's we before me. And we're going to focus on that we first, the team first. So it's about being selfless. It's about being loyal. It's about being hardworking. I wrote a book called The Hard Hat, and it's 21 ways to be a great teammate. And it's about a lacrosse player who died on the field 11 years after I did. He played at Cornell University just like I did. And he was the greatest teammate that ever lived at 22 years old, George Boyardi. And George Boyardi, got hit in the chest with a ball and died. And now, to this day, his teammates still live their lives based on him and the kind of person he was. And they're still inspired by his example of the kind of person he was when he was 18, 19, 20 years old.
So what do people do if they're having an off day? Like you want them to bring their best self all the time, but what if they just don't feel it that day? How do you mentally turn that around? How do you shift that?
Well, you know that we're going to have bad days. Everyone's going to have a bad day. That's okay. It's when you have a bad day, how do you turn it around? And so yesterday was yesterday. Let's make today great. Let's have a great day even though we had a bad moment. You're going to have bad moments, but how can we have a great day? A good friend of mine, Mike Smith, he's the former coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He said he wouldn't allow himself to have a bad day. He had bad moments, but he wouldn't allow it to ruin his entire day.
Yeah, and in coaching, especially people with nutrition, I hear from them a lot. How do I stop myself if I've made one bad choice and I've had a cookie? How do I stop myself from having that bag of chips and having that pizza and having the burger and just spiraling out of control throughout the day? So we could use a lot of those same techniques to like I said before, recalibrate and get back on track. And not everything needs to be linked necessarily.
Exactly. And we didn't even talk about eating healthy. I mean, I love that you just brought up food. It's like you guys are all about that. I love that. I eat mostly a vegan diet, and I think that's again a key example of health and wellness and showing your kids the importance of diet and the way to eat right and healthy for longevity. And and great health in the future.
Yeah, we're totally cool with you being on track with that.
Yeah, we talk about lead by example all the time. And I think that's something that's important for kids to be able to see, is to find a role model. Hopefully it's the parents, and hopefully the parents are leading by example. And if they're not, there are plenty of kids out there that have to look elsewhere for role models because for some reason the parents aren't just cutting it. And that's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
Right. My parents went out a lot. They were great parents, but they went out a lot and had, they would go out to happy hours and stuff, and they loved to drink and have fun. And I never drank ever. So it's like, I don't think you pick up everything that your parents do. You're here to be your own person. My parents, ate a ton of food and loved big steaks all the time, and I don't eat that way now. So again, I think we have many opportunities to be our own person along the way.
So being a parent is super hard. It's probably the toughest job on the planet. Do you have any regrets as a father?
Any regrets? I wouldn't change a thing because they all helped me become who I am. But yeah, I think early on as a parent, I was young. I was 27 when my daughter was born. So I was young. I wasn't a great dad early on. I wasn't a great husband early on. I was pretty negative. I was striving so hard to make it and be a success that I didn't really spend a lot of time with my kids when they were young. I always told my wife, I said, I'm going to be a great dad as they get older. I know it. And I did. I feel great about who I've become along the way. But early on, yes, I wish I was a better dad. My daughter wrote her college essay, and when she wrote it for admissions to college, it said, when I was young, my mom struggled with her health and my dad struggled with himself. She said, but I watched as my dad worked to become a more positive person, and then he started to write and speak and share a positive message. And I watched a lot of people change because of it, and he changed. And if they can change, the world can change. And so just reading that brought tears to my eyes because I saw how my one decision to be a more positive person changed everything about my life, my marriage, my family, my kids, and my future. So that's why I'm such a believer in this message.
Yeah, the negative parts to our story aren't necessarily negative. They're just parts to our story, and they help us become who we are and the lessons that our children could learn. And, such a young, bright daughter you have, to actually see that and to be able to then apply that to her own life too.
Definitely.
Congratulations on raising her.
I wish we could do it again, though. I wish I can go back, just, not the whole thing, but just go back and just, experience it like one more time, but do it a better way.
Yeah, but it would never be the same, right?
No, and I always think that'd be really cool to change one thing, like the butterfly effect, and then you'll see how one little thing would change everything, the good and the bad, right? The bad things lead to the good if we are willing to learn and grow from them.
We need to respect your time. I know you have to go. You've got other things on your plate, but I just want to really thank you so much before you go, because you've influenced my life in such a way that you have no idea. And you probably have no idea how much of an impact you make on so many people in this world just by the videos, the talks, the podcasts, the books, everything that you're doing. Your message is super important. I've had incredible success using some of the techniques, tactics, points that you've put together. And I've really made it a primary focus in my life right now to focus on making those connections, building relationships, being more connected and caring with the people around me. And I just really wanted to thank you for all you're doing so much.
That means a lot. I really appreciate that. That's, what keeps me going is knowing that I make a difference. But you're right. I don't have any idea the impact I've made. I hear from a lot of people. You get emails, but I don't really even think much about it because I'm just always pushing forward the next day, the next moment to continue to do it. I always laugh with my brother. I say, I really just want to create a great funeral. I'm here to create a great funeral so that when I'm gone, people are there and they can talk about the difference I made. And yes, I won't be here, but I know it would be a great funeral.
That's one way to look at it. But
I know, is that morbid to think of it that way?
No. I mean, it's inevitable. So you may as well make it work, make it worth it.
Yeah, I always live with the end in mind. Like I want people to meet my kids and tell them, this is after I'm gone, God willing, and they'll meet my kid and say, "Oh, your dad made a difference in my life." And so that's how I live life. And also every interaction I have with people, I try to, and I want this to be the case, that they leave with something of value. I leave something with them and help them in some way by giving them some piece of advice or an idea or something that when they encounter me and they leave, they go, oh, that was great. John gave me that idea. That happened like 3 times today, and it felt great. I love to leave people with some sort of value from our interaction.
That's perfect. So if there's one thing you could leave our listeners with today, what would it be?
It would be to choose faith instead of fear, because fear is the number one thing that sabotages us. We have to recognize it. We have to be real about it. Everyone talks about fear and negative thoughts, but no one talks about where it really comes from. And when you really have to understand where negative thoughts come from, there is evil in this world. There is fear in this world. And that's why we love Star Wars and Harry Potter are so popular, because it's the battle of good and evil within each one of us in our soul. And once you understand that, you don't have to choose fear. You can choose love and faith. And love and faith will carry you forward. And it overrides and overpowers the fear. It casts out the fear. And so if we move forward with love and faith, fear will dissipate and have no power over us. And that's the way we need to live, with courage, with love, with faith, believing that the best is yet to come. So thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Love it, John. If people want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to go?
They can go to jongordon.com, Jon Gordon.com, or Twitter at JonGordon11. Also on Facebook, I think it's Jon Gordon Page. Jon Gordon Page.
Okay, we'll link to all that in our show notes at planttrainers.com. Thanks so much, John. We really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Plant Trainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day.